Welcome. It's Monday. Welcome to Deal Doctor Live. And I have a whole bunch of miscellaneous stuff. That's redundant. A bunch of miscellaneous. Anyway, let's start with a charity golf classic. The 5-star charity golf outing is going to be on June 29. Now, you may have seen a video that we put together with me in the starring role. I felt very good about that part. And some of you may have seen me golfing and think that I actually golf that badly. And I can assure you it's worse. So but it's a lot of fun. And Irene and Brian Cribbs have again invited me at their own peril, mind you, to join them in their foursome along with Tracy Johnson. So if any of those people are hurt on that particular day, we'll make them feel as best they can. But no, I'm going to be out there golfing with the rest of you, even though most of you are far better than I am at golfing. So anyway, sign up now. The link is www.5starcharitygolf.com, and I've put that right below today's announcement about what today's subject matter is. So 5starcharitygolf.com, click on it, go there, sign up. If you don't have a foursome, our folks in charge of this will get you one and put a bunch of people together. Again, it's a lot of fun. Something that we really missed last year, and I hope that as many of you will join as possible. It's for a great cause. So there's that. Okay. Net sheets. Got a call or a conversation with an agent last week. Seller was upset because they were going to have to bring money to closing. And I asked the agent, did you provide the seller a net sheet when you went to list the property, and talk about at the list price or at some lower price what their net proceeds would be? And the agent responded with something along the lines of, what's a net sheet? And so we walked through that process, but it's really, 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 really important that agents, if they're not using net sheets now, they start immediately. Because here's what's going to happen. Either the buyer or the seller has to bring money to closing that they don't have, that they didn't know about. They didn't understand that the closing costs were going to be a certain amount, and that was going to be taken away from the proceeds of their sale. And if there wasn't enough equity in the property, that they were going to have to bring money to make up for the difference. In other cases, the seller may realize that may have enough equity, but it leaves them less than what they need in order to buy the house that they have an offer on. So they don't have enough money to close. And then guess who gets blamed? They'll never take the blame for miscalculating or for not thinking about it. And it's our job to make sure that they do understand that there are closing costs involved. There's obviously commission involved. That's usually the biggest part. And there's usually about 2% of the purchase price involved in transfer tax, title insurance, and so on. But guess what? We can make it really easy for agents to use an app by Star One. Again, you'll see that. I asked Tracy Johnson to put a link to it, or the video. I think Paul put the link to it. I've mentioned it. I think that it's on there on 5 Star Connect specifically for that purpose today. So y'all can sign up for a year. It's $10. If you send in your bill, I believe it's going to be rebated to you. So there's no reason not to have this. In addition to that, I always, for years, have had sellers sign the net sheets at the time of the listing, at the time of the offer, and of course they get to sign the HUD or broker statement at closing. 3 opportunities that I get their signature that says they understand, they acknowledge how much money they are going to get from the sale of the property, or if they have to bring in additional funds. It's really important in this day and age when consumers tend to blame agents for everything, and then they use that to go to court with it. If we have that kind of protection, if we have that signed document that says, no, here, we showed you this at the listing, that's your signature and that's the date, and then, oh, look, we showed you again what you were going to net from the proceeds of the sale that you accepted. You see that right there? So that's your proof. That's your cover your backside if against that happening to you. So I encourage you all to provide net sheets at the listing, at the offer presentation, so there's never a question. And the Star One app is free with basically a rebate sort of thing. So get it. If you're old school and you still want to use a paper net sheet, you can do that. We have one for you on dotloop. So there's just really no reason at all why agents are getting caught in this blame game when they could have protected themselves from the very beginning by providing a net sheet when the offer was presented or when the property was listed. I got a call over the weekend about how to write an escalation clause and where to put it. And I encourage you, and I directed the agent to the clauses section of dotloop. And I encourage all of you, again, to go in and go into clauses. In order to get there, you use the navigation bar, you click on templates, go over to the left, and all the way down past where all the forms are located, you will find a little hot link called clauses. Click on that link and it will pull up a whole list of clauses excuse me, that have escalation clauses, appraisal guarantee clauses, construction specifications contingencies, seller's concessions, broker admin fees. All there's probably 50 to 75, I'm guessing, clauses in there that have been written and reviewed by our attorneys. We know that they're legal and they cover a lot of ground. So we encourage you, bookmark the clauses page if you have to, because then it's going to be there and available to you when you're writing an offer. So again, it's really, really important that you learn what's in dotloop, not just the clauses, but other things like, do you know how to separate a PDF? Do you take a 12-page PDF that you get by email, load it into dotloop, and do you know how to go in and cut that into pieces, essentially assemble it so that there's a 2-page seller's disclosure form, there's a 6-page purchase agreement, there's a lead-based paint all separated out so that you can list them and work with them individually as opposed to as this big, long document. That's really handy when you start to figure out what you need to send over to a lender, for example. If you don't know how to use those things, get with your BA. They'll direct you to the people who can teach you how to use dotloop more effectively. And I encourage you all to do that. You'll find that it will make your life much easier, especially if it's a Saturday night or a Thursday night and you can't get a hold of a deal doctor, and you've got to write an offer that's got to be in by 11 o'clock. So again, we encourage you to learn what dotloop, all of the functions that dotloop has. Paul mentioned something. Paul Carlson mentioned that we have a document, and it's called a pre-offer addendum or a pre-flight checklist. There are a couple of different names for it. And he mentioned last week that I'm rewriting that. I did rewrite. I basically took it, started from scratch, even gave it a different name. I don't know what the name will be ultimately. And then Eric is weighing in on it, as will Paul and Greg and Kim and Tracy and Doug. We're all going to take a look at it. We're going to run it past our attorneys, and then we're going to share it with all of you. The reason this pre-offer addendum is so important is that it, again, covers agents who are later blamed for not sharing information. For example, what happens if the appraisal guarantee is triggered and you've not put any cap on it? How far can it go? Well, it can go as far as possible. As far as the difference, it doesn't matter if it's $100,000 if there's no cap on it. So you want to be sure that you've covered all of the bases. What is the risk, for example, if your buyers don't get inspections, if they waive the inspections? What happens then? Do they have the ability, do they have a clear understanding that this eliminates their ability to get out of the contract based on the condition of the house, unless it's something on the seller's disclosure form, and that's only within 72 hours. So the pre-offer addendum, or whatever it's going to be titled, will be coming out soon. But what it reminds me of is to say that's why the come into the office meeting that I've talked about so many times is really, really important. Right now, a lot of agents and a lot of buyers are scrambling around. They want to see a house. One agent called me and said, I got a call. I called them back 2.5 hours. They'd already gone to a different agent. Well, that's a lot of scrambling around. I understand that agent or buyers are a little bit frantic right now, but part of our job is to help settle them down a bit and sit down with them and talk about the process from beginning to end, not simply jump through the hoops, run out and show them 10 houses, because the time to explain all of the options and all of the consequences, whether it's about waiving inspections or an appraisal guarantee, the time to do that is not while you're writing an offer, in the emotional throes of writing an offer. The time to do that is before. And guess what? Again, if you get their signature on a document that shows that you have shown them every one of these things, what the consequences are, you've disclosed all of that, and they've initialed it, you're going to have a much better position if they come back and decide to sue you because they feel as though you didn't provide them the information. Hang on just a second. Now, in addition, in dotloop, there's the appraisal guarantee. And I want to especially point out that if you are going to have anyone involved in the financial process other than the buyer, you must disclose that on the purchase agreement. I know a lot of agents are writing cash offers where the National Bank of mom and dad are actually the people who have the money, and they don't put it on the purchase agreement. And so the seller and the listing agent think they're getting a cash offer, and so they ask for proof of funds. And the buyer can't provide proof of funds because they're getting the money from the National Bank of Mom and Dad. And so this is one of the conversations that we have to have with the buyer, that if you're getting money from anywhere other than what you have available in your account right now, then we need to make that offer subject to getting that money or having Mom and Dad put the money in your account right now. So when it comes to an appraisal guarantee, if there's a $15,000 appraisal gap guarantee, then we need to know that Mom and Dad have that $15,000 sitting around somewhere ready to help you. That's not something that you can keep from the listing agent, because if something goes haywire and the parents don't provide the money and the deal falls apart, your buyer's going to be on the hook for whatever damages the seller experiences as a result of not knowing that this was all subject to the National Bank of Mom and Dad, or the local bank of Mom and Dad. Take your pick. Anyway, I want to also point out and remind everyone that while I'm a resource for 5-Star in terms of education and training and information, please take advantage of Melinda's training on Mondays, Mondays with Melinda. And tonight I think she's doing handling objections. So bring your best. Join her. I think it's 6:30. It's, again, on Facebook Connect. So check it and join in, because you'll learn a lot of information in that session. Kim Anderson on Tuesdays has 2 different sessions, one from 10 to 11:30 for G-Car agents, and another from 2 to 3:30 for those using the West Michigan Regional Purchase Agreements. If you need one in your area, if you need for one of those sessions to be created and substituted for your area, let us know. We'll do our best to provide whatever you need in terms of training, but we've got to know that you need it and that you're going to invest in it. The dashboard CRM is online now, which brings me to talk about 5starmichigan.com and 5starleaders.com. And I think that if you go to those websites, you will find a whole host of information on there. You'll find Deal Doctor live streams. You'll find Greg and Paul's weekly sessions. We've started the 10,000 hours program, very powerful program. I don't think that there's any broker that I'm aware of that is providing the breadth and depth of training online that we are, individually and focused on real events that have happened at 5-Star Real Estate. So do yourself a favor. The best way to learn this business is to either get a mentor and a qualified mentor, and to go online and learn everything that's on 5-Star, from dot loop, the clauses, and all of the videos that are on there. Pick one to do every couple days, a couple days, 2 or 3 a week maybe. And I think that you will find that your level of proficiency in real estate will increase dramatically. One of the first places I would encourage you to go is to the online Con Ed that we created back in December into January, and released it, I think it was the first week in February, didn't we? Thereabouts. So it's been out there sitting, and I know that we have less than half of our agents who have gone through Con Ed, even though it's been there for several months. That session, those 3 sessions with me, Eric, and then a panel with Gail Anderson, is full of a lot of information, particularly about dual agency, agency in general, contracts, and so on. So I encourage you to do the Con Ed. It will really, whether you need it or not, if you just got licensed and they say, well, you don't need Con Ed this year, do it anyway, because it's good information and information that's going to be helpful to you as you go along, especially in the start of your career. Couple of notes on dual agency. And I hope this one lands really good and solid. If you have any financial interest in a property, you cannot be a dual agent. I'll say it again. If you have any interest, financial interest, in a property, you cannot be a dual agent. So whether you are a part owner, an owner by LLC, a partial LLC owner, or full out owner all by yourself, it doesn't matter. In none of those cases are you permitted to be a dual agent. You can remain a seller's agent, but a dual agent is not an option, because what judge in the world is going to look at you and say, oh yeah, you owned the property, this was your money that was at stake, and you're trying to tell me that you represented somebody that you didn't even know equally? Yeah, you might as well give up your commission right then. It's not going to happen. And even if you might know that person, even if you have a buyer's agency contract with that person, as it regards this transaction where they're buying your property, you need to shift into a buyer's or a seller's agency role, and have the buyer sign an amendment saying, as it regards 123 Main Street, for example, all parties understand that so-and-so from 5-Star is working solely as a seller's agent. And of course, we have the disclosure that you are a licensed agent licensed in the state of Michigan. So, another situation that happened, and I will present this. Agent has a buyer's agency contract signed with a buyer, meets a seller, decides that on the disclosure regarding agency relationships and on the purchase agreement, agent is going to declare that agent is transaction coordinator. No, that can't be. Can't be, because there's a buyer's agency contract in place signed by the 5-Star agent and the buyer. How does the agent suddenly get the right to perform as a transaction coordinator with no allegiance to her client when there's a buyer's agency contract signed? You can't do that. You have to work as a buyer's agent in that particular case. So if you have these questions as you're going along, call me, call Eric, Kim, Tracy, Doug, Paul, anybody, and let us answer you the question before a problem occurs. It's a lot easier to fix a problem before there is a problem. So with that, I hope that you'll go and look at the resources that we have available for you on 5starmichigan.com. Do the Con Ed if you haven't already. Go through the clauses, look at dot loop, learn dot loop throughout, and I think you feel a lot more confident in when you go out to work with buyers and sellers. So thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next week.